guys, how's it going? This is Cyber Saloon. So today we're going to be going over Danmachi Season 3, Episode 9. This episode primed us up for the great escape that we're going to be getting next episode. And this episode kind of played out a little bit how I thought it would, with Belle being kind of an outcast. You see that the Hestia Familia is kind of an outcast, but not nearly to the extent that Belle is. So we start off the episode, and so they basically scapegoated Xenos for the whole, for everything that happened, like the whole shitstorm that happened last episode. But you see that Hermes and Uranos are talking, but they're basically saying, well, like Xenos was the scapegoat, but like most of our problems are still here. Belle is still here, and like the whole entire city hates Belle. Like they scout him everywhere. You see it later that they kind of like look down on like Hestia's whole familia because of it. But the main problem is that none of the Xenos got back down to Babel, which is the dungeon. So like Lids, Ween, Gross, like they're all still in Oratorio. They're on Daedalus Street, which is being patrolled by Loki's familia. I think Asterius isn't in Babel either. Like I think he escaped to the sewers in the last episode. I'm curious if he'll get his arm back, if there's some type of magic or some type of crystal that gives Asterius his other arm back. Because I can imagine during the Great Escape episode that we're going to see next that Asterius will make his it'll probably be the last to go down like into the dungeon until all the other monsters are kind of down there. We see that like Belle is universally basically hated by the whole city. You see like a group of adventurers talking bad about him, like they're sitting on like a pile of rubble talking about like how no one likes him anymore. And you see that Mord kind of like throws stuff at him for talking bad about Belle. Mord is from season 1. I think he's like, if I remember right, he was like near the end, and like he earned Belle's respect because Belle kind of stood up for them towards like the end of season 1. So it's not just Belle that's universally hated. The Hestia's whole familia, so Lily, Mikoto, Wealth, Haruhime, they went out to go get groceries, and they talk about how like everyone's basically like mean mugging them, like giving them mean scowls, and that of course is because Belle is associated with Hestia's familia, that they're all kind of looked down upon. But they make a comment that like it's like palatable, like it's not like they're like hyper aggressive towards them. It's basically just a bunch of people mean mugging them. Belle of course doesn't and shouldn't like regret his decision for what he did in the last episode. And you see Hermes come in and he talks to Hestia and Belle, and he basically tells them that most of the Xenos are like spread out over Daedalus Street, which is where all the destruction happened in the last episode, and that they need Belle's help in order to get them out. Though I'm not sure what Hermes gains out of this. Like, we know that Ganesha and certain other gods and goddesses, like a very few, Uranos especially was kind of like the main one who knew about the Xenos, but I'm confused. I'm curious to find out what, I think Hermes' stake inside of all this is Belle, because we see this like since season 1, that Hermes has a great interest in Belle, nearly as much as Freya, but not quite that obsessed. But I think the way that Hermes, he doesn't want a situation where like Belle is universally hated, because he wants Belle to be like the hero that takes down the Black Dragon, to continue basically where Zeus's familia kind of failed. So that's why Hermes is so invested in this and is risking his familia. You see that he's been playing games like from the shadows. He's basically been playing 11D chess, and you see this especially later, that trying to like set up situations and situations to where the Xenos can get back in the Babel. So he gives kind of a layout like of the whole situation in Ontario. Freya's familia, they're kind of like around the tower, but they're not like that close to where like Xenos and Fels are. They're kind of like around Babel, which is the dungeon, and you see that Ganesha's familia is guarding the entrance to the dungeon, so they can't just go straight into the dungeon either. And on Daedalus Street, which is where the Xenos are, Loki's whole familia is around that area, so they can't make any moves to try to get out that way. Loki's familia is the second strongest in the whole city, so there's not much they can really do to even try to get out of there. And then we see that Fels, like, there's groups spread out over the whole, not just Daedalus Street, but around, like, where the whole area happened from last episode. But the main group, which is, like, you see Lids, you see Gross, you see Ween, like, I think it's Ray, the harpy-looking chick. Fels is kind of like the leader in that area. Fels is kind of like the leader of like the Xenos right now, because him and Uranos have a vested interest into getting them back into the dungeon, because Uranos and Fels like care a lot about the Xenos like Belle does. Then Hestia brings up like a good point. Why can't you just tell like a lot of these familias that like these monsters are intelligent and like they're not like that different from us? Why can't we just go tell Loki's familia like just to let us do it? And Hermes tells them that Loki might not care, and I can kind of see Loki like not caring. Like Loki's pretty smart, and she doesn't Loki doesn't really care about anything, really, other than eyes, but he gives an explanation to why most of the members in Loki's familia like hate monsters. Finn, interesting enough, he's trying to like regain the pride for his race. His race, I forget what they're called, but they're kind of like shorter people. And Finn's trying to like grow like pride back in his race again, like to bring greatness back to them. And Finn, I would probably rank him. He's easily in the top 3 like adventurers in all of Ontario. Ortsorol is the strongest, but I can see Finn taking 2 or 3. It's not that he's strong. Finn is also like really, really smart. He's a really good adventurer, so like, and he doesn't want to risk like his like if he does something bad, he doesn't want people to kind of look down on him and his whole race for like or bring any type of shame to them. Of course, we know that Eyes hates monsters like a lot, and so she wouldn't be okay with it either. So even if Loki agreed to it, that wouldn't really go anywhere. So after Hermes kind of gives his like kind of rundown of what the situation is, Hestia and Belle go on a little tour of Daedalus Street. You see most of it's been destroyed. Like a lot of the businesses and buildings along there are like pretty decently damaged. And of course you see Belle, like they're all, every adventurer in the whole town, well not town, but everyone in the whole street is like yelling insults at him. They hate him. And Hestia, being one of the best girls, of course, tries to claim credit for it. She's like, oh, we just needed money, and like Belle did this out of his love for me, so like blame me. And of course, they're less likely to like hate like a god or goddess for like something like that. But Hestia does try to stick up for him a little bit, so I get credit where credit's due. And then this part's really interesting. So you see Eyes like come out. She is not happy. Like you can kind of tell, like with the animation, like she kind of it's not just indifference on her face. Like it's like kind of like a look of like disappointment, slight anger. And you see that Loki comes out as well. And Loki basically is like, she's like, oh, like you're interesting. You got to tell me why you did that. She's showing like kind of like a lot of great interest in Belle for like making the decision that he did. But you see Ice is just pissed. Like she's not happy. Like she doesn't say anything to Belle at all. And then, like, she just walks past him without even saying a word. And you see that Belle kind of looks down because he knows that, like, Eyes... well, Hermes mentioned this earlier. Like, he mentioned that Eyes is, like, overlooking a part of Daedalus Street. And, like, you see Belle is obviously depressed that his waifu, like, is overlooking, like, where these Xenos are. Because he obviously doesn't want to come into, like, conflict with her. But you can kind of tell when he passes her on Daedalus Street, like, she is, like, very upset with him. And, like, you can kind of see he's pretty down about it. So Hestia kind of deals with Loki, and then Bella's walking, and he comes into contact with Seer. So Seer's an interesting character. I don't know what it is, but ever since she was introduced in season 1, she's had like a very kind of mysterious kind of vibe about her. I don't know what it is, but I don't know. Something just feels off about her. I don't know. I know that sounds like, but I don't like. Something just kind of feels off with Seer. So she like, of course, treats him as if like he's coming back in the tavern like Mamma Mia's to eat some like more food. She and him kind of talk, and she doesn't give him any shit. Like she's just like, oh, like you had to do. Like, of course, Belle's actually probably happy to hear one person not like bring it up in a negative way. And then we see Belle, of course, get the legendary lap pillow in anime, so he's kind of happy for a little bit. So after that, you see Fel send out like an owl to Lily, and Lily gets the message. And then you kind of cut to a sequence to where Hermes and Oranos are kind of like going in a little bit more in depth about how the escape's going to work. The way the escape's going to work, they're going to have a lot of different people helping them out. But the way so they're guarding like a lot of the main entrances into the dungeon, so they can't get in any typical path. But most of the people who are guarding like Loki, Familia, Ganesha, and all the rest of them, they don't know about the different like kind of routes you can take in Knossos. And not only that, they don't even know about them. They can't even get in them because they don't have a key. I do expect that, I don't know how many keys they currently have with them with all the Xenos. I imagine they probably have like one person per group that has one, if even, because the Daedalus eyes are actually pretty rare to come across. So I'm not sure how many keys they have. But I do kind of predict they're going to get one of them. Like, someone's either going to lose one, they're going to get beaten in a fight, and they're going to lose possession of at least one of those keys, I think. I can definitely see that happening. And Hermes says he wants compensation, of course, because Hermes always playing 4D chess. But you see that Asfi goes to ask Aisha and Ryu to like help out with this operation. So Aisha finds it kind of off-putting. She says she just finds it odd to help monsters. And you kind of see like a flashback of 2 episodes ago when Asterius just beat the ever-living shit out of like all of Ganesha's Familia, and Aisha was down there. With Ryu, she Asfi tells her she's gonna give her information involving Evilus. So I can definitely see that being the next arc after this season. If they do a season 4, like a part or another core of Danmachi season 3, I can see Evilus kind of. Like, I don't know why, but just the name, like, obviously they're not good, but I can see, like, Evilus kind of being, like, a main kind of antagonist group, like, in the shadows, so I can imagine that's probably where our next arc's going to come from, but she kind of bribes Ryu and says, hey, like, I'll give you some information on Evilus if you help us out. Ryu just, I don't think she cares too much, like, she would do most anything to get information on Evilus, and then we see that she kind of persuades them both in saying that, well, Belle's helping out with this, and of course, because Aisha and both Ryu kind of like have like a friendly relationship at minimum with Belle, they're obviously going to help them out. I thought this was one of the most interesting parts of the episode. You see that Belle's girl, well, Hephaestus, she knows about the Xenos, and so does two of these other gods she's talking to. I forgot their names, but I think one of their names is Misha. But the 2 other gods are kind of close with Hestia's family. I think that Mikito's original family is one of those gods. I'm curious. They know about the plan. I'm not sure how they know about the plan because Hephaestus' familia are the best blacksmiths in Ontario. So it's interesting that they know, but they're trying to make a decision on like whether they need to do it or not, and they want to make a decision because they kind of view this as a situation that just kind of needs to end like now. So I'm curious if you'll see their familias, like Mikito's former familia, and also Hephaestus's, like, because again, Hephaestus's familia is like really powerful too. They're the best smiths in all of Ontario. Their swords and their weapons are like crazy expensive to even get. So we cut back to like Hestia, and she gives them the ultimatum, like, look, we can do this. We can help these Xenos and become basically pariahs in this whole entire city of Ontario. Or we can let the Xenos basically be slaughtered by Loki's Familia and others, and things can maybe turn back to normal. And of course, and no surprise to anyone, Belle, of course, chooses to help them. And no surprise to anyone either that Mikito, Welf, and everyone else are going to help them out as well. They kind of view it as they can get these Xenos back safely or discreetly enough to where they won't really... kind of like a clean operation, I guess. They don't where everything goes right, but of course that never happens. We also see that Welf has been making magical swords, and Welf used to be a part of his Hephaestus' familia, and he's a really good blacksmith. And he's made everyone in the group like a magical sword. So I'm really excited to see how like powerful these swords are, because remember Welf made that knife from the Minotaur horn, and it could cast like pretty powerful flame spells. And then we get to the funniest part of the episode. We cut back to the Xenos where Fells, Gross, Lids, and everyone else is, and they gave Lids part of the budget, but they didn't give him the full part. Like his animation was better, but like I guess they couldn't spend too much on the talking animation, because you see when Lids talks, like his mouth just like same thing with Gross, like their mouths just constantly stay open, and it's like a small bit off-putting. Like every time I see it, I'm just like, man, they couldn't just open their mouths a few more times. But just a small qualm. I love both Lids and Gross, but Fells explains to them that Belle is going to be the distraction, and now all the monsters just start giving Fells shit. Like Gross calls him a fiend, and Lids is like, are you serious? Ray's like, really, you're going to do this again? And then the funniest part, Wayne's like, I hate Fells. Like, all my homies hate Fells. She like gives him like a really like a pout, and like Fells is like, look, this is part of the plan. So, like, it has nothing to do with my bones, because like someone in the Xenos audience kind of made a bones joke. But he kind of explains like why Belle has to be the distraction, because he has the most negative attention focused on him and the most suspicion that's placed on him. The Belle makes an easy distraction, and after that you see that like there's a lot of preparations being made for this like great escape. They have invisibility like potions. They have like a bunch of potions and like special cloaks and stuff that make them invisible. Like I imagine most of the Xenos are going to be made invisible, just to try to get them to one of the slots on Daedalus Street, not Daedalus Street, but Knossos. So this is the most curious part of the episode. We see that Hermes, of course, playing 11D chess as he always is.
We see that Finn knows about this whole operation. He knows that Bell is going to be the distraction. He knows like the Xenos are trying to get into a specific part of Knossos. I find this, I don't know if he has like an informant. Like, I don't know how he knows this information. I don't know if he has like an insider, because like the very few people know about this. So you see that Hermes kind of brings up that Finn's like adventure name is Braver, like that he's exceptionally smart, which he is, but you would still have to have like some level of insider information to know like all the details of the plan. And you see that like Finn kind of brings up like breakdown, like, okay, this is where everyone needs to go, like Bell's gonna be the distraction. And of course at the end Bell kind of shows up and is like, I'm gonna save everyone. I'm not sure if everyone's gonna get saved. I can see a few monsters kind of taking, well, especially now that Finn and Loki's familiar know. Like I can definitely see like a few casualties among them, because if they know about the plan, like it has to be like a shit show on some level. Like there has to be like a couple groups that I can see getting wiped out. And I can definitely see that moment from the trailer where Eyes like confronts Bell with a sword. I can see that happening next episode, because I can kind of see like a situation where most of the Xenos, like Lids, Gross, and like Ray, most of them kind of like making their way in the dungeon, but Ween, I can see her going out of her way to go to try to find Bell, because like she kind of views Bell as like a big brother, and like I can see like her like latching on to Bell like while he's trying to like be a distraction. And of course Eyes comes down at the best possible time and kind of confronts him about it. I'm really excited to see how this whole great escape plan works out next episode. Again, I can see some, because again, they already know about the plan, so I can see some like groups maybe getting wiped out. I don't think everyone's going to live through this, but there's one caveat to that. Asterius. We saw Asterius last episode kind of escape into the sewers. I don't know why, but I feel like he's going to get his arm back, and if Asterius gets his other arm back, Asterius alone could probably like hold the line enough in some areas to where like most of them could escape. I think there's only one person, like if you're going up against a solo fight with Asterius, I think only Ortorol would be the one who stands a chance. Like I don't think he'd win against Finn and Gareth. Gareth is the dwarf that's in Loki's Familia. I don't think he'd be able to fight both of them, but I can see Asterius like coming out in next episode. I'm curious. I really want to see Bell and Asterius interact, because they haven't talked yet. I want to see it. I want to see what kind of personality Asterius has, because Asterius is an absolute badass. Well, guys, that's all I got for this episode. What do you think is going to happen next episode? Do you think it's going to be a massacre because Loki's Familia basically knows about it? Or do you think it's going to be a smooth and clean escape? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I also have a Twitter, and I'll post that in the links below. All right, thanks, guys. Take care. Have a good one.